Hi, this is Joseph from NizhoniPhoto.com, and today we're going to be talking about folders. So folders, this is an incredibly important lesson. It's something that you should really pay attention to because if you're a beginner in Lightroom, it's very easy to become confused about how Lightroom is actually storing your photos on your computer. And if you don't understand that, you run the risk of accidentally losing photos. Like if your hard drive were to crash and you're not properly backed up, you could end up losing a lot of photos. But if you understand folders and how folders work, you're going to understand how Lightroom backs everything up. And when you understand that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to keep track of where your photos are, and you're going to have a lot lower risk of accidentally losing all these photos that are so important to you. So let's get right into it. How does Lightroom actually organize your photos? Well, Lightroom works through a cataloging system where you create a folder in Lightroom, and what it does is it creates a duplication of that folder on your hard drive. And so the folders in Lightroom are going to be duplicated exactly onto your actual hard drive. Now, when you go and actually import photos into those folders, all you're doing is you're really just copying your photos into the Lightroom folder that will be on your hard drive. Okay, so that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because all Lightroom does is when you do an image edit in Lightroom, all it's doing is it's actually just referencing back to the original photo on your hard drive. It's not actually adjusting the photo itself. So your photos don't actually exist in Lightroom. They're actually totally separate from Lightroom. Lightroom is just referencing back to your photos on your hard drive. So that's a really, really important thing to keep in mind. So to really get you to understand this, I want you to see where these folders exist on your hard drive. So to do that, let's first take a look at these folders. So here I have my main folder. This is also known as the parent folder. So this is the main folder where all of your other Lightroom folders are going to exist, okay? And since all of your folders exist in your parent folder, all of your pictures are also going to be in this one folder on your hard drive, okay? Now, if we click down into this, I have this broken down into two main folders, okay? And then if we go further into these main folders, I have it broken down into subfolders, okay? Now let's actually find these folders on our hard drive. It's really easy to do. I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to go into my Finder, into Pictures, and there is our parent folder right there. We can click into that and we see our two main folders. We can click into that and we see all of our subfolders by year. And we can click all the way down into these subfolders, and there we have our actual raw photos. Okay, so again, Lightroom is simply referencing back to these photos. They don't actually live in Lightroom. So if I wanted to back everything up in Lightroom, all of my photos, all I need to do is back up this folder. So I could move that to a hard drive, or I could back that up to a Blu-ray disc. It would probably take many, many Blu-ray discs, but all I have to do is back up this one folder. Okay. Now, there are a couple ways that we can find our folders on our hard drive. I showed you how to find them manually. But what would you do if you didn't know how to find them on your hard drive? It's actually really simple. In Lightroom, you can click on any folder that you want to find, right-click it, and click on Show in Finder. And there you have it. It's going to show you where this actual folder is. And then on a Mac, you can see the little path that leads to that folder. Okay? We can also do this with individual photos. Let's say we want to find this photo. We right-click, we go Show in Finder, and it's going to show us right where that photo is. So it's a pretty slick system. Now, we can also find folders or photos with a hotkey. We can select any photo that we want to find, and we can hold Command and R, and it's going to show us the location of that photo. But this also works for folders as well. Okay, now let's talk about how we actually organize our folders. So again, this is our parent folder, and then we have these main folders. Now I have these broken down. I have two main folders, My Lightroom Photos and Z Projects. My Lightroom Photos are, I refer to this as my archives. So this is where I store all of my photos that they're done editing and I'm ready to share them online and print them and do whatever I want to do with them. Z Projects is, I call this a miscellaneous folder. This is where I put pictures that I'm working on. Like for example, if I'm actually out in the field and I bring my laptop with me and I'm still actually editing photos in the field, I'll create a folder in this Z Projects folder so that way I can work on it completely, and when I'm done I can move this finished folder into my actual main folder. Another thing I do is if I'm experimenting with a different kind of photography, like if I'm doing a lot of, like recently I've been getting into focus stacking more. So if I go out and I shoot a lot of focus stacked images, I might create a folder here that just has, it might just be called focus stacking, and I'll put all of those images here, and so that way I can work on them. But I want them to be separate from my archives. Now, the reason, I'll get into this a little more later as to another reason why I don't just put everything in my archive folder. But essentially all you need to understand is I like to have two separate folders. One folder where I store all of my pictures that are complete, and then another folder for my works in progress. The only reason I name it Z-Projects is simply so that I know that it's going to always show up on the bottom of my list no matter what, because Lightroom will list all of these folders either chronologically or alphabetically. Now let's go into my archive folder, My Lightroom Photos. So as you can see, this is broken down by year. And then if we go further, the years are broken down essentially by trips. So each time I go on a trip, this is the formatting I use. I put the date, the year in, I put a period, a 2-digit for the month, and then I put a dash, and I actually give it a unique name. Now the reason why I do this is just so that it keeps all of my trips evenly organized in a sequential order. So then that way, all of my newest trips are always going to show up on the bottom of my list. And the reason why I do this, I'm actually going to explain this to you by giving you a little bit of a cautionary tale of how not to organize your folders. So when I started shooting photography years and years ago, this was a long time before I ever even used Lightroom, I would go out on a trip and I would shoot a bunch of photos, and I'd come back and I'd create a folder on my hard drive. And then I would name that folder based on where I was when I shot those photos. So it could be, you know, camping trip 2012, Yosemite trip 2013, you get the picture. What ended up happening is after doing that for a couple years, I had many folders. Like I had 50 different folders. And my computer actually organizes those folders alphabetically and not chronologically. So what happened is I had a clump of many folders, but I couldn't really keep track of what was what because they weren't organized chronologically. So for example, like the top folder in my list of folders could have been the first time I ever shot a picture, and the second folder could have been my most recent trip. Okay, there was no real organization. Now what happened because of that is that, you know, I usually back up to a hard drive, an external hard drive. It's a safe thing to do. But since I had so many folders, I couldn't keep track of what folders were actually backed up onto my external hard drive. And eventually, my hard drive crashed. I was using a PC, and when I brought my photos back from my external hard drive, I realized that a recent trip that I had went on to Sequoia National Park was completely gone because I didn't back it up. And I was really devastated that I lost those photos because they were some of the best pictures that I had taken. And what ended up happening is I was actually able to get those photos back, because another backup system I use is that when I'm actually shooting photos on a memory card, when my memory card is full, instead of reformatting my card and starting over, I just buy a new memory card because they're cheap. And I take that full memory card and I just put it in a safe place. And my logic is, well, if I ever completely lost everything, I could at least come back and get most of my photos back. And it worked. I was able to go back and retrieve all of those lost photos. But I realized that that system wasn't working well for me. So I really needed to come up with a better way to organize my photos. And through research, I found that this is the best way to keep your photos organized. Do it chronologically by date. Because again, now if I was to back up on a hard drive, I would know, like, if I could see, oh, these two folders here haven't been backed up yet, so I need to back those up, and it's done. So it's less likely that I'm going to forget to back something up. Now, having said all of that, I'm going to teach you about a superior backup system where it's going to do it automatically and you're not even going to have to worry about it, but I'll talk about that in another video. So now let's talk about a little bit more about organization. Let's actually click on this trip here, this trip that I took to Yosemite a couple years ago. Let's open up this folder, and you can see that I have two separate folders within this trip folder: images and stacked. Now, let's start with stacked. What this is if I'm out and I'm doing exposure bracketed photos such as this here, where, as you can see, these are 7 photos of the same scene, but they're just taken at different exposure levels. Now, I took all these photos and I put them together into an HDR. But rather than having all of these pictures be clumped together with the photos that I want to edit, I think it's better to kind of keep your system a little more neat and organized by grouping photos like this into stacks. So as you can see, these 7 photos here, I have them grouped together into this one stack, and I can open it and close it if I want. And I actually have this stack color-coded. Now, color coding is just another form of organization. I color code all of my stacks differently. For exposure bracketed stacks, I color code them as red. For focus stacking stacks, that's when you take one photo, but you take it at different focus points, and then you blend those separate photos together to get a really, really sharp photo. I'll go ahead and color code these as yellows. And then if I have a photo, if I have multiple photos for one scene, but they were really spectacular, and I already got like a good photo and edited it, but it's such a good photo that I can't bring myself to delete it, why not have a backup? I'll color code that as like a red, or I'll color code it like as a blue or an orange, something that'll really stand out. Here I have them actually color coded as greens. Now, that's all I'm going to say about color coding and stacking for now, because I have a separate video that goes into that. We're just talking about organization. Okay, so this is stacked. Images, this is where I have all of the photos that I'm actually going to be working on. So again, here, this is the actual HDR photo that I created from the stack. But you can see if we click on the main folder for this trip, you can see that our stacks are together with the actual final images. And that's not really how I want to organize my photos. So this is why I organize it in this way, so that it keeps everything really neat and organized. And again, the more organized everything is, the less likely that you're going to be, the less likely it will be that you can accidentally lose or delete photos. Okay. Now, let's talk about creating a folder. In Lightroom, it's very easy. All you have to do is you have to know what folder you want to create a subfolder into. So let's say let's say I went out on a trip and I wanted to create one here. Okay? I'm going to click on this main folder. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say create a folder inside Z projects. And I'm going to name this, we'll just say 2018 space. We'll just say 2018 for now. 2018. There it is. Okay. We'll click on this, and now let's say we have our year photo. So let's say we actually go on a trip in 2018. It's 2016 now, but we'll say create a folder, and we'll say 2018-02 space. This is a dash. That was a period before. Dash space, and then we'll say test folder. So now it created a folder within the folder. Okay? So we can click on this, and now to create our images in our stacked folder, all we do is we go to create folder, and we'll name this images, and we'll do it again, and we'll name this stacked. Okay, let me go ahead and actually delete this so that it doesn't really get in the way. Okay. So there you go. Here is this new folder that we have created. Now real quickly, I'm just going to show you how we import into a folder. Okay, I have a whole separate video that goes deeper into importing, so I'm just going to run through it now. But if we want to import photos into a specific folder, we click on our main trip folder, right click, say import to this folder. Now again, I'm just going to fly through this because we're going to go into this in more detail. Desktop, we have some photos here on our desktop. So we're going to go ahead and select these photos and we're going to import. Okay, so there they are. Now once we're actually into this folder, we can separate these images into these subfolders by simply highlighting and dragging them into the folder. Okay? Okay. Now, again, Z projects is where we're going to go for works in progress. Let's say that we're done with this folder. We've edited it, and now I want to add it back to my archive. It's very, very simple to move folders around in Lightroom. All you do is you drag it and you drop it into the folder. And there you go. It's going to put it chronologically where we want it to go. Very simple. Now, let's talk about deleting photos, because that's an important concept to grasp. To delete a photo, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can highlight a photo or want all photos. You can hold Command A to highlight every photo, or you can hold Command D to deselect. You can click, hold Shift, and highlight many photos, or you can hold Command, which is Control on a PC, and you can highlight individual photos. Now, let's say we want to delete this photo. We can hit delete. We're going to go into what this box means in a second. So you can hit delete, or you can reject photos. Now, rejecting photos pretty much means that you're setting a photo up to be deleted later. To reject a photo, all you do is you highlight the photo you want to reject and you tap an X key. Okay? Let's say we want to reject this one, and this one. So now these photos are rejected. They're set to be delete. To delete photos, all you have to do is hold Command, delete rejected photos, excuse me, Command and delete, and this will delete just the rejected photos. Now we have two different options. We have this little dialog box. It's saying delete 3 rejected master photos from the disk or just remove them from Lightroom. Removing from Lightroom, what it does is it just removes these photos from your Lightroom library in the program. But these photos are still going to exist on your hard drive. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Now remember, we can find this folder by clicking Command R. There it is. Whoop. Actually, we want it to go, let's go into this main folder here. Command R. Okay. There we go. Okay. And as you can see, all these photos are still here. Okay. We just have them grouped into our different folders, which is, you know, what we did in Lightroom. So it, again, Lightroom mirrors everything on the hard drive is a mirror to what we do in Lightroom. So our photos are still here, okay? Now, if we actually want to delete a photo from the disk, we can highlight it, hit delete, and now deleting it from the disk will actually send it into the garbage can. Okay, now, what would we do if we wanted to actually protect the photos that are in our folder? Because one of the dangers, and this happened to me, I accidentally deleted one of my favorite photos from my Lightroom library. I don't know what happened. I was just going through and calling through my photos, and I accidentally deleted one of my 5-star images. Now, I was able to get it back because I have a really good backup system that I'll go into in another video. But it kind of scared me because I was thinking, man, this isn't really safe. There's got to be a way that I could protect myself from accidentally deleting photos. And there is. It's called locking folders. To lock a folder, you have to actually go into the folder on your hard drive and lock it. So to do that, it's very simple. Let's find this folder. We'll right-click and say Show in Finder. Okay. We'll go into this folder. We'll click it, and then we can right-click and say Get Info. And it'll actually bring up this little box. And all we have to do is click Locked. Close it out, and now if we try to delete a photo, let's delete it. Let's see, it actually did let me delete that. Let's see, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry guys, let me clarify something here. In order for this to work, let's unlock this, okay? You have to actually lock the next folder from where the image actually exists, right? So let's say we want to find this folder. We want to protect it. Okay. We want to protect this photo. So we're going to actually lock this folder. It's the next folder behind the actual image. Okay, so we're going to go to Get Info, Locked, boom, boom. Now let's try to delete it. It's not going to let us do that because we've locked the folder. So just keep that in mind. Okay, another way to do it is, let's go ahead, let's click this and say Show in Finder. What, Get Info, excuse me. And now we can actually lock or unlock this photo. Okay, let's go ahead and let's delete this. And there it is, it's gone. Okay, now, let's say that we wanted to add photos into our folders on our hard drive. So we just deleted a bunch of photos here. Let's say I want to put them back in my Lightroom. Okay, we're going to right click, open a new tab. Okay, We'll pull this over here so we get a separate window. Now let's find the folder that we want to go into. We're going to go into Lightroom, My Photos, 2018. Okay. And let's go ahead and add these pictures into this folder. Okay, so we've added them into images. And let's go ahead and X out of that. So what happened here? We actually added photos into our library, into our folder on the hard drive, but they're not showing up in the library. The reason this is happening is because every now and then you're going to need to synchronize your folders. What synchronization does is it just tells Lightroom that you want to, well, just sync the folder that's on your hard drive with the folder in Lightroom. It's very easy to do. All you do is you click on the folder you want to sync, right click, say Synchronize Folder, and there it's telling me that it wants to import 6 new photos because Lightroom is detecting that there are photos in the folders on my hard drive, but they're not in Lightroom. So we're going to hit Synchronize. We're going to hit Import. And there they are. There's all of our folders, our photos, excuse me. Now, just to recap, to actually lock a photo, you're going to, an easy way to do it, the easiest way, is to just go ahead and click on the folder where the photo actually exists. You can go to Get Info and you can click Locked. And now Lightroom will not let us delete these photos. Okay. Let's go ahead and unlock this because we actually want to get rid of this folder. To remove a folder from Lightroom, all you have to do is right-click it, remove, and then it's going to tell us, do you actually want to remove this folder? And we're going to say yes. Now, we'll see the folder may or may not actually be on our hard drive. Let's look into it. It actually is there. So when you remove folders in Lightroom, it's kind of like a fail-safe mechanism. They're still actually going to be on your hard drive. So if you want to delete a folder from your hard drive, you can just manually delete it by dragging it into the trash. Okay? But remember, when you do that, you'll also have to synchronize your folders in Lightroom. Okay? Now, one last thing I'd like to talk about. Here we have a folder with a little question mark in it. If we actually go into these images, we can view them, but if we try to do any kind of post-processing, it's going to tell us that the file can't be found. The reason for this is that I actually took the liberty of purposely moving this folder onto my desktop so that you can see what happens when Lightroom can't find a folder anymore. This is what happens. To actually relocate this folder, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is right-click and say, Find Missing Folder. Once you find it, you need to actually tell Lightroom where the folder is. So there it is, Arizona Last Winter. We're going to click on that. We're going to click Choose. Now this is a little different because since it was on our desktop, Lightroom added it into our parent folder or outside of our parent folder. So to put it back into the Z projects, again, all you got to do is click it and drag it to where you want it to go. And there it is. Okay. Now, one last thing that I'll leave you with is that this parent folder here, you actually don't need to see it in Lightroom. It's kind of unnecessary for it to be there. So to make this disappear, all you have to do is right-click and say, hide this parent folder. And now it's going to give you more of a clean looking interface. If you ever want to see that parent folder again, and that's a good idea if you're ever working adjusting your folders a lot and really trying to reorganize your Lightroom, you'll want to see your parent folder. To see it again, you just right-click and you click on Show Parent Folder. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I hope you found this video interesting and stay tuned for more. Thanks.